When it comes to vehicle gameplay in PlanetSide 2, there can be a lot to talk about, from loadouts and armor values all the way to movement and gunning. As such, I will be trying to keep this video as short as possible, while also describing all the important information you need to know. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Purpelthing, and I've taken it upon myself to explain some of the knowledge I've learned about PlanetSide. Some of it might be things you knew before you first played, and some of it might be new to you. And today I would like to talk about vehicles, specifically for ground combat. Part 1. Loadouts. Not only do you need to worry about your vehicle's loadout, but you also need to worry about your infantry loadouts. And yes, that is plural. So make sure you use your extra loadout slots you get from reaching ranks 5, 10, and 15 respectively, or any of the extra ones if you have them unlocked. Also, I won't be covering any vehicle loadouts in this video. That would take too long, and I would like time to explain certain vehicles in detail. Because of this, I want to spend this time just explaining some things useful for every ground-based vehicle. For your loadouts, typically you should use the engineer, so you can repair when you're damaged, and you want to separate it into at least two categories. The first will be your driving loadout, and the second one will be for gunning. When you're driving, you want to make sure your vehicle has ammo. To do this, you will either need the ammo printer or ransack implants active. The first, when maxed out, will give you one ammo tick every 60 seconds. One tick is different depending on your weapon, but it's the same as an ammo tower gives you when you first reach it. Ammo printer works passively, meaning that if you fire 1 or 2 shells and then go 10 minutes without seeing any enemies, you'll have full ammo when you finally see something to shoot. If you don't have ammo printer, or you like a more aggressive battle style, you can use the ransack implant, which gives you a tick of ammo for killing an enemy vehicle within 50 meters at max rank. Also, when you reach max rank, it'll also heal your vehicle for 10% of your vehicle's health pool. One thing to note about these implants is that they only apply to the vehicle if you are the one who spawns the vehicle and you are either in it or within 10 meters of it. If someone without either of these implants spawns the vehicle and you get in with the implant, ammo resupply using them will not apply. The other implant a driver typically should use is Sweeper HUD. This allows you to see any mines within 35 meters. Not a lot when you're moving, but still useful and can save your life. It also tells you the range between you and whatever you're looking at. For your weapons, you should use at least one that can damage armored vehicles. Typically, you should use an anti-material rifle or a weapon with an underbarrel grenade launcher as your primary, or a hunter crossbow as your secondary with explosive bolts. If you have an anti-vehicle knife, currently the Kukri, Ancient Psychonetic Blade, or Saboteur, only of which the Psychonetic Blade is currently available for Daybreak Cache, make sure you slap it on your loadout. Now that you know your driver loadout, you should look at your gunner loadout. For this, you want to use the same gun options as before, at least one that can damage armor. Personally, I use a different gun, so that if I have to bail from my vehicle, I just need to look at my gun to know what loadout I'm using if I forgot. Not that hard to do compared to looking at the bottom of your screen at your implants. Since the ammo printer and ransack implants are useless if you're not the one spawning the vehicle, you should aim for other ones instead. The first one is the easiest to get, since if you start a new character, you already have it. This is target focus, which increases the range where your crosshair will change colors based on if you're looking at a friend or foe. It also shows the health of any targeted enemies. If a group of gunners in an armor column have this, they can all learn which of the vehicles is closest to dying and focus fire on it, making them lose a vehicle faster than your column loses one. The other implant you want is definitely the hardest to come by. This is the counterintelligence implant. To get this, I would recommend using the ISO recycler implant boxes to get the highest chance of finding it. You still need 500 ISO for it, but you have a boosted chance for exceptional implants. Otherwise, one of the bundles has it. This also gives it to any other characters you have, but you need to pay real money for the bundle. With counterintelligence, every time you get shot, it automatically spots whoever shot you. If you watch your map, then it essentially tells you what shot you and from exactly where, which is more useful than the damage indicator in my opinion. Also, when you're playing as infantry, it tells you when you've been spotted, even if it's from outside your render distance, which can be useful in its own way. One thing that's important for any newer players is using an anti-air gun for any of your vehicles that have a top gun, especially on tanks. This isn't very necessary on many Sunderer loadouts, but if you're driving a main battle tank and don't have the experience of using your main cannon to shoot down aircraft, it's safer to use either the Walker or Ranger as your top gun. Which one you want is up to you, but I personally prefer the Walker. If you're either not worried about enemy aircraft or you have enough people shooting down aircraft, you can either use the halberd on the vehicles that can equip it, or any of your faction-specific weapons. Part 2. Movement and Placement. When it comes to movement in most vehicles, people will jokingly say that you just need to hold W and fire. While that is technically true, there's a bit more that goes into it. First off, I would like to teach you about power sliding. Basically, you're going to learn how to drift a tank. Power sliding works better the faster your vehicle is. meaning you want to mainly use Racer Chassis if you want to practice with it. It is possible to activate the slide with Rival Chassis, but it's more effective with Racer. Any of the vehicles that are on the ground, meaning anything you pull from a vehicle terminal except the Mag Rider and Javelin, has a handbrake. This is activated by holding your spacebar, and yes, if you want to stop faster, you can hold both S and spacebar. But when you get up to speed, you can use this to slide around either obstacles or enemy vehicles, allowing you to hit rear armor. One important aspect of moving is also not flipping your vehicle. Power sliding while going over a small ledge can easily flip you over, but your guns have actual recoil, so if you're about to land on your side, you can fire in the direction that's angling down, and it can help you land safely. Firing your cannon can also help you when you accidentally get stuck in a hole, so try it out. One important movement option you should know about involves turbo abilities, and is sometimes referred to as vaulting. Have you ever looked up at a flash flying through the air? How about being shot by a Mag Rider from the top of one of those plateaus on Hassan? Personally, I only really have experience doing this in a Mag Rider, so I'll be showing you how to do it in one. But the rules apply with all other vehicles using turbo, including flashes and ants. What you want to do is drive towards a slope, like this one you can find in VR training. When you get to the point where your vehicle starts angling up, and I mean exactly when you start angling up, use your turbo ability to launch yourself up the slope. The Mag Rider is best for this because you can then rotate it while it's in the air, letting you cancel some of its momentum and saving your vehicle. But if you know what you're doing in a harasser, you can do this just as effectively. I also mentioned ants can do this, but it's usually not necessary for an ant driver to practice it, due to the ant having the best turbo ability in the game by far. If you've ever used a turbo ant, you know what I'm talking about. When it comes to armor, each of the tanks, meaning your main battle tanks and lightnings, have separate armor values based on what direction you fired from. I would like to note that it's where you fired from and not where you hit. If you're on one of the sides of the vehicle and somehow hit the rear, the calculations will use the side armor instead of the rear armor. When it comes to where you want to be when you're attacking your enemies, you want to be behind them while only exposing your front armor. This gives you the highest chance of survival. Also, when you hit rear armor, your vehicle deals an additional 50% more damage, but you deal double damage if you hit the armor on the bottom. This only really applies if the enemy vehicle is cresting a slope with a sharp peak, or if a Mag Rider tries to jump over you. But look out for those situations in order to deal extra damage. Part 3. Long Distance Travel. Long distance travel is a great way to practice your power sliding outside of combat, especially since it helps you conserve momentum while going around corners, letting you get from one place to another faster. But another thing you need to look out for are secret paths and roads. While Hassan is generally considered the worst continent for vehicle gameplay, it's actually got some of the best examples of these paths. You can kind of see them on the map, but not very clearly, and they can sometimes be found by looking for long stretches of terrain with no plants, rocks that stake up towards each other that looks like jumps, and fallen logs going from one of those straight areas with no plants to another. One thing these paths let you do is sneak up on your opponent. If you're able to flank an armor column effectively, or even just one or two tanks, you can end a good player's kill streak fairly easily. Another way to not only help you travel long distances, but also help you flank your enemy is hill climbing techniques, not to be confused with vaulting. One of the best places you can look at for examples of where to drive when climbing a cliff face is Indar. Canonically speaking, Indar is the home of an ancient seabed. This is actually something I personally love about it. If you just look around, you can see where the ocean dried out, as well as the rivers that used to flow into that ocean, and you want to use those dry riverbeds as much as possible. They typically have more gentle inclines than the other paths up the cliffs, and let most vehicles up quite easily. While some of these slopes you can only drive up in certain vehicles, there are a lot that any vehicle can get through, providing not only a good way to get places faster, but also either a flank or escape from enemy vehicles. Part 4. Gunning. Now that you know some of the basic information on driving, you need to learn how to be a good gunner, no matter what vehicle you're in. I'd like to mention that any vehicle in the game that can have a gunner is basically useless without one. A Vanguard with no gunner will lose when it comes head to head with a Prowler that does have one. First off, a good gunner communicates what they see to their driver, and a good driver knows what you should be firing at first, so both drivers and gunners need to listen to each other. If you don't have a microphone, don't feel comfortable talking over voice channels, or just don't have a voice, then it's not as necessary, but it's always useful for the driver to know what the gunner is seeing, or for the gunner to know exactly what to shoot first. This leads into the second part. The gunner should always be looking around for anything that might be approaching. Even if you're in a halberd, you should be checking the skies for enemy aircraft. For every round that hits you while your back is turned, that's less health for you to survive as you fire at your enemy. so keep your eyes peeled for anything. This part might sound counterintuitive to what a gunner should be doing, but it's important to know when not to shoot. During a firefight, most players will get tunnel vision. As a side note, to avoid tunnel vision, look around as you reload. So there are times where you can get a vehicle behind enemy lines without them noticing, unless you open fire on them. This is a harder topic to understand without communicating with your driver, but a good practice is to only fire when you've been noticed. Otherwise, you might lose that flank you are looking for. If you want to learn more about vehicle combat, you have a few options open to you. You can join an outfit either focused on vehicle combat or is large enough that it has experienced vehicle mains in it, then you can ask them questions on how to get better. You can even just find people driving around on other factions and ask them for duels. They might agree to help. Another option you can take is joining events focused on vehicle gameplay. If you open your squad search tab, which is P by default, you can sometimes find a squad mentoring vehicle gameplay in the name. Or, if you play on the Connery server, there's typically a Tanker Tuesday event that multiple outfits on all factions participate in. This might be on other servers, but I haven't joined any groups on them, so ask around if you're interested but not on Connery. And if you're interested in learning about a specific vehicle, I'm going to be uploading more videos about some of those vehicles and playstyles with them, so make sure you subscribe so you can find that video, or any others about playstyles and PlanetSide, once it's uploaded. And if you liked the video, make sure you hit the like button and comment what you learned, or even tell me if I was wrong about something. After all, I'm still learning with you.
Enemy sight spotted.
Thank you for watching. I hope I was able to teach you something new. Now go out there and get better with your favorite vehicles.